Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. All the few of you and loyal you who watch. Today I have a very special guest. Someone who I met in college, but who kind of graduated before I entered. Ravit. Ravit is someone who I met through the Decline Student Association, through the dancing through our New Year show, taking a stance, things like that. We kind of bonded through then. And he gracefully reached out to me a few days ago about being in a video and kind of talking about his journey. And so, yeah, welcome, Ravit. Thank you so much for being on my channel.
Yeah, no, thanks, Michael. It's nice to have this opportunity. This is kind of my first talk, so excuse me for any lingo or any weird thing I'm not used to. But no, glad to have you. Glad to be on your show. Glad to have a talk. It's good to catch up. It's been a while for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I think I talk about how like the main point of the channel is kind of talk about like specifically kind of that gap between like college and or school and like work, but I think also just kind of catching up with old friends has been really nice too. And with you especially since I haven't seen you in so long,
Hmm.
it's been really nice. Uh, but yeah, I guess we'll start off with an icebreaker, if you wanted to ask that.
Yeah. Um, I guess I always like want to break it off because I guess start off first. I just turned 29, right? So I'm reaching the 30 age bracket. But I do find myself still enjoying anime and manga, right, at this age. So my question to you, Michael, what's manga or anime are you into right now? If you're
Uh,
into any.
yeah, there's quite a few, and the amount has definitely exponentially increased since graduating, since now I have more time. Um, but I think the ones that I'm like following right now are probably the biggest ones is probably One Piece. Just I've been watching that for so long, and then uh, Gintama is one that I always kind of go back to as well. Um, I think especially since watching like all the old, uh, since like watching all those anime growing up that it kind of makes fun of, seeing that in kind of different contexts and like kind of things they get away with. The comedy, but also like the balance with the action and some of those scenes as well. I can watch that show like anytime, and I do watch it pretty much anytime. So
Yeah, yeah, no, I tried getting to One Piece last year, but I don't know, it's just so long. I think
yeah,
I stopped at episode 200, and that took an effort. I know it's not even close. Um,
200 is a pretty good effort. It's a long journey. I definitely recommend it to everyone, but I realize it's super long, so I don't like I don't judge anyone for not doing that. I'm impressed you got to 200 even. So
Yeah, like I'm all for binging. Like I binge a lot to catch up. But yeah, One Piece was definitely a challenge. Um, but yeah, Gintama actually hasn't. I hear people talk about it all the time. I still haven't got into it. Um, what I finally got into though was Jujutsu Kaisen.
oh, that's a great one. I'm reading that one as well. It's really good.
Yeah, see, that's how I always start, right? I watch these animes and then it's
Yeah.
like I can't deal with it, so I keep reading the manga.
Mhm.
You know. Um, but yeah, right on. Yeah, honestly, I think anime and manga has kind of kept me sane in a way, go, going through life and thrown through, I guess, adulthood in a way. It's funny because all these main characters are 15, 16-year olds. I'm a decade
Mhm.
older than them. But I guess it kind of has helped me cope with a lot of things.
Hmm.
Um, as a side effect, in a way, it's kind of an escape world, right? So that's kind of the reason why I brought it up, right? Because it, it's I still find it funny because like during my lunch break at work, I would watch anime, for my lunch break.
Mhm.
And it's like, I'm not shy about it, but it's like the culture there is so different
Right.
that they won't even understand what anime is.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Uh, and that's a good point because like I I always like talk about how I want to have enough stuff or do enough stuff to like that I like show them like I like anime and stuff, but without making it super obvious. It's not like I'm
Mhm.
necessarily ashamed of it, but it's just kind of like you said, the culture is so different. Especially with scenes like fan service scenes or like something like that. And I'm like reading manga in public on the bus or something. People like look over my shoulder and they see something like that. I'm like, oh man,
Right.
I think it's super weird. But like also like the I talk about this a lot with one of my friends, especially considering Jujutsu Kaisen, where the kids are teenagers and they're like going through all this stuff. And I think um, uh, obviously the stuff they're going through is pretty rough, and more than like reasonably possible. But um, I think what Jujutsu Kaisen does really well is like uh, reminding us that the kids in their high school is going through these things. Um, I think a lot of times with the older animes like Naruto or like One Piece, uh, they're just kind of like going through these journeys and these hardships, and we kind of grow up expecting watching those. You kind of expect like, oh, all these protagonists should be like super hard and like not be faced by these things. But like Jujutsu Kaisen is different. It's just like Nanami and like uh, talking about how like, oh, adults need to take care of these things.
Mm.
I think it's really weird thinking about that now because like being 24, I'm thinking I'm still a kid, which I still am, but compared to these 15, 16-year-old kids, like I said, I'm 10 years older than them, so I'm the adult there. Thinking like, oh man, now I'm in a place where I have to guide people, which I guess is where kind of where this channel comes in. But yeah, I definitely don't feel like I am very qualified to do that. Especially now, like my brother's going to college and being in high school, um, trying to like be a good uh, uh, guidance for
Mm.
them. Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, make a good point. So I'm actually the youngest sibling, right?
Oh.
So I had some guidance from my sister, but I've always kind of yearned for that, like to be that big brother, that
Mhm.
you know. So I sometimes I do seem, I guess, in a way nosy, but I really just wanted to help out because I know how hard it is just to learn things on your own,
Mhm.
you know. And there's sometimes you just need small pointers, and you'll just break through everything.
Yeah. Uh,
Oh, sorry, my
okay.
cat's playing with me.
Cat can be in the video if you
Yeah,
want.
that's fine. Oh, he's just trying to play with me. So.
Um, yeah, I think it's kind of hard. It goes a little bit into like I wouldn't call it like intergenerational trauma per se, but I think like as the oldest, my parents raised me to be very independent in a way. Like if you're going through these things, stick it out, figure out yourself. Um,
Mm,
and so as the oldest brother, I kind of find myself when I see my brothers struggling with something, I kind of see myself thinking, oh, stick through it, rough it out. But I realize that doesn't necessarily help with them, and I'm just kind of pushing these bad coping mechanisms with them onto them as well. Um, and so it kind of helps me reflect on my life too, thinking, oh, what do I wish my parents did to me, or do I wish I did differently when I went through these things in high school or going into college? That'll hopefully help them without being too overbearing. Because
mhm.
like one of them's kind of in the whole I don't want to talk to my family phase. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's a good
yeah,
time.
it's hard, right? It's hard trying to not be overbearing in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see that. So I mean, because my sister has two kids, and I've kind of been around other kids younger than me, right? Because I'm starting to see this new generation after me, right? All my cousins are having kids, so there's these pack of kids. So just seeing how these kids are raised up by all their parents now compared to how I was raised as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's definitely a very interesting dynamic. Seeing how things are because we've gone through certain things, and you're seeing the kids go through certain things, and I just wish the best for them. I want to give them as much pointers as I can, right? Not to say like my ideas are good, but as in this is my situation, this is how I dealt with it. Maybe it might work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely really interesting. Because well, what's cool and cute too is my niece and nephew are they just turned 11 and 7, um, and then they're only a week away from my birthday. So they were all
Oh,
April babies. Yeah.
nice.
So it's fun because actually, so my sister is born a week before me, my nephew a week after me, and then my niece 9 days after me. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so April's been a really fun and hectic month every year, right? Because we also come out New Year's.
Right.
I guess granted though, this year we didn't really do much because Yeah,
Yeah.
you know how things are. Um, but yeah, it's nice seeing people grow. I think that's now that I'm older, right? I don't have kids yet. Um, no plans anytime soon, but I think I enjoy seeing growth in people,
Mhm.
right? Because I guess I worked hard to grow myself because I know like I'm always gonna lacking something. I feel like everybody, nobody's perfect, right? So I think the more you accept that there's more for you to learn, I think the better person you will be. And I
Mhm.
always kind of keep that motto to heart. Um, that I'm always gonna learn. I'm always gonna have something I can be better at.
Mhm.
But what you said your brother's in high school and going to college,
So
or
I
is in
have one
college?
brother. I have one brother who's graduating high school this year,
Okay.
in a month. And I have another brother who is currently a sophomore in high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, so you have how many siblings do you have?
I have two brothers.
Two brothers. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the big brother. Yeah,
So
that's
I'm the big brother.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, sometimes I don't feel
that's
like
definitely
it,
tough.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's okay, and it's tough because um, just kind of looking at my sister, uh, being the older sibling, it's tough, because you have to figure out yourself and kind of pave the way for your siblings. They may not walk the same path as you do, but you have that sense of responsibility, and I sense that from my sister. You know, um, so it's definitely a hard task. Um, that's for sure.
I know you talked about how you kind of wanted to uh, be like in the big brother role, but did you feel like you had any specific uh, experiences or like kind of uh, I guess to say familiar pressures being the younger sibling or the youngest?
Yeah, I definitely felt a lot of pressure. Partly because I grew up somewhat conservative in terms of like my culture, right?
Hmm.
So it's my sister and me, so just two people. My sister walked a very non-traditional route, I guess per se. If I'll keep it at that. So they have this expectation of me, right? I'm the son, but I'm also able to just continue school straight on.
Hmm.
So I end up giving off this image as this golden child, you know. So I definitely had a lot of pressure in college or just growing up in general, right? They expect me to be this golden child, follow what they want to do. So like I graduated from UW Bothell with electrical engineering, right? Um, and I'll be honest, for those that are in college in general, I didn't enjoy it. This was me listening to listening to my parents' advice and direction, because I didn't necessarily know. I wasn't confident in what things are because I knew I need their support in general.
Hmm.
Um, but probably my third year, it's I wanted to give up like every day. It's like I can't do this. This is hard. But I mean, there's some anime influence too. But like I know that if I give up now, I'm afraid of giving up again in the future.
Hmm.
Right. So I powered through it. I wasn't proud of my GPA graduating. It was rough. I mean, it definitely opened doors for me for being an engineer. But I mean, this actually goes pretty well with our topic, right? Because so I graduated in winter, so December of 2014. So that was God, 7 years ago almost. Um, but I didn't get my first engineering job until March of 2019, so just 2 years ago. So that's a 4.5 year gap, between graduating and getting a job, and it it was some stressful times. I didn't show it much, but that pressure was even worse. Um, well, for one, like I didn't enjoy electrical engineering. I didn't understand it. So when I applied for jobs, I see these job postings, these descriptions. I'm just like, oh, I can't do that. Like I feel so dumb. It's like, how am I going to apply for this job for something I don't know how to do?
Hmm.
I can't lie my way. I'm not good at BSing my. You know, I can't sell myself well. So that was my biggest struggle too, because I also never did an internship. So there's no experience. And I lacked the confidence and integrity and just the knowledge of my degree, and it was rough. So, and especially whenever I go to, family parties, I'm sure you experienced it. I'm sure a lot of people have experienced too, especially with the Asian culture. They ask you, it's like, oh, how's school going, right? It's like, oh, you graduated. Great. Do you have a job yet? Where do you work? It's like, what do you do? And what do I tell them? Nothing. Granted, right out of high school, I worked as a technician. So not so much for an engineer, but kind of just an engineering company, but a step lower just in case I can get my step up to the door, right?
Mm.
Kind of work my way up from there because that was the strategy going forward. That first job, it was cool. I got decent pay, coming out of college, getting 17 bucks an hour. I felt great, at the time, but it didn't go anywhere. They didn't seem to want me. So I decided to pivot. I quit. Um, so I was trying to find other jobs, but in the meantime, so I ended up just being a dishwasher at a sushi restaurant, you know. Um, and to be honest, for me, that's totally fine. It was fun. It was my friend's restaurant. We had good talks. We were playing fantasy football, so we talked about it during work. Um, but I bring that up because I think one of the biggest lessons my family taught me, though, is humility, right?
Mm.
Um, I've met a lot of people that think they're the big shot, that especially in my field, they have an engineering degree. Oh, they're smart. They're these people, I'm not going to touch that. And it's like, no, school, yes, school does give you knowledge, but it doesn't necessarily make you a better person, and people have different stages, people have different experiences. They got to do what they got to do, and for me, dishwashing, it got me by, it's something to keep me going, keep me motivated, not just stay home. Um, I only did that for like 5, 6 months, so it wasn't too bad. But then at the time too, my family really pushed me to get into Boeing, right? There's this stigma. It's not really stigma. Boeing is a pretty stable company in terms of job and money wise, but they really wanted to get in there because that's what they know. They work there.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's a safe job, like any parents, right? They want their kids safe and successful. Um, so I ended up working as an hourly worker as just an assembly line, right? I didn't work for Boeing yet. I worked for some supplier for Boeing. Um, I did that for almost 2 years, which it started from I was doing body work. I was just all dusty and sanding and painting and stuff. It was kind of miserable, but I can't complain too much. It's a job. It pays for me. That pays for things in general. I need experience. Um, then I moved up into building wiring stuff, right, for airplanes, which it's not full. I mean, at least it's somewhat related to my degree, right? But I was trying to find ways where whatever job I do, I can apply it for the next job I try to, right? Because my
Mm-hmm.
end goal was to be an engineer um, at the time still, you know. So I kept pushing and pushing, and then I finally got into Boeing, but not as an engineering. Just I continued being an electrician, right? Or being just an assembly worker, alley worker. I was making 15 bucks an hour. It's normal, is I guess. It's to get by, it's nothing to brag about. It is what it is, and it's hard because as an adult, after you graduate, what do you do? Do you
Mm-hmm.
bum around the house? It's hard. Parents will support you if they can, but I just felt like this is endless. I almost really gave up being an engineer. I gave up just being anything. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna work, 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 and think nothing of it, and that's it. I make decent pay and call it good. But I guess still 10% of me was there that I still need to push. And then eventually, like I said, 2 years ago, I finally got my first engineering job. And I think I had a lot. I really tried to network, right? With talk to people, bring up a little bit of my story. And I'm always hesitant to bring up my story because I don't. I'm a little bit in between, right? Because I'm desperate to get a job, but I also don't like a pity party.
Mhm.
You know, like I'm not fond of people that play the victim card. You know, like, oh, I need help, I need this. You know, she should help me. But at the same time, it's like I know I do need help, but how do I ask for help without being that person? You know, so it was a big battle of my ego, um, for sure. But eventually, yeah, I somehow got a job as an engineer at Boeing still. I guess I never left Boeing. Uh, but yeah, it's crazy now that it's been 2 years since I did it. But the 4 years before I got the job, it was just it it sucked. You know, um, I guess I still get emotional if I really think about it. But I remember when I got the call for my job, I definitely cried. You know, it was a long time coming. Um, my family knew how hard I worked. My wife knew how hard I worked too. So that was great. But like I said, I think the whole anime shonen like not giving up thing somehow had some influence to it. But yeah, that was my journey from graduation to getting a career job. You know, but yeah. Sorry, I got a little emotional, but overall, what do I say? I regret it though. Um, no, but there are definitely instances I knew I can definitely do better, right? But I think about myself too. It's like, what happened? What kind of person would I be if I got into a career job right out of college, right? Um, and I think I probably wouldn't like myself if that happened, because I can admit that I think for the most part I grew up relatively spoiled, pretty spoiled. I got a lot of things what I want. I believe, you know, certain things did come easy to me. This was kind of the main slap in the face. So it's like, look, you need to try, actually try. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. So just I had to put my head down and try to be as distract free as possible. But at the same time, I don't know. It still seemed really fresh, even though it was so long ago. You know, but I guess I don't. I'm happy with where I am now because of that.
You talk about where you are now, but uh, you after you're getting your career job, you're now back in school, right?
Yeah,
So, what kind of transition? What kind of inspired that route?
yeah. So I think I miss learning, right? Not so much the homework. Nobody likes homework. But I like learning, and I knew that I don't like engine. Well, okay, I like math. I like all these logical stuff, but I couldn't see myself as an engineer for a lifetime.
Mhm.
I don't think that's something I want to do for the rest of my life. So I look for jobs that help me on a resume and a portfolio aspect, but at the same time, something that is something I wanted to do once, right? Because electrical engineering, no, I didn't really want to do that. It was cool, but I didn't want to do it. So what I'm going through right now is it's through USC, University of Southern California. It's called Integrated Design Business and Tech. What essentially is it's a master's program aimed for people to bring innovative ideas and create a startup from it, right? Push pretty much push the boundaries of what the current situation is and try to bring in a new product. And I thought it's really cool because originally I wanted to get an MBA because a lot of people got MBAs. It's cool. You become a manager or all the other stuff, but it wasn't as exciting to me. This I saw that you actually have to learn a bit of design, learn a bit of business, and learn a bit of tech. In engineering school, we had to learn coding, and God, I failed. I failed bad, but I figured this time I can learn a little bit of coding, enjoy it, also learn a bit of the design work. Even though I'm not good at it, but it was a lot of things that I was excited to learn about. And I actually started school last year, last May actually, so it's been exactly a year now. Um, it's been a really fun journey because I feel like I'm open to um, a different opportunity that I wasn't used to before. And I think if it wasn't for my path now, I probably wouldn't think of it. And part of the pivot too is, I guess, being a responsible adult at this point, right? Because job security isn't guaranteed, right? You're not guaranteed that you'll get your jobs. I know, people are unfortunately got laid off during this last year of the pandemic and everything. And even before that, I knew it's like, look, I need to sell myself. I need to be at a point where I'm not worried about losing my job. I think that was my biggest drive, as in, how can I make my skills better as a person, that for the unfortunate event I lose my job, I won't stress as much because I know I'm capable of doing a lot of things, so I can just go apply at other jobs or go do other things. So that was my biggest push, and I think it's help it's helping for sure. Whether or not I leave the company, whether or not I do a startup or anything, I at least feel that I'm growing and learning more as a person too.
I think your story is really interesting because you kind of talked about the aspect of like uh well, I guess for one, like not really being happy with the field you're in, but kind of pushing through that. I think a lot of people, myself included, or not myself. um, like I think for me, uh, like my parents pushed. I'm trying to go to medical school, right? And so my parents pushed medicine on me for a long time, kind of similar to like your family of Boeing. Like it's familiar. They know it's job security. They know it's going to make money. To go into that. And I think for me, I do enjoy the field, but I'm kind of at the point now where it's like, am I doing this in control of trouble because I enjoy the field, or am I doing it because my parents have pushed me so hard into it that I don't know what else to do? Um, and so I think, I ask myself now, like uh, now that I've been rejected from medical school, I'm asking myself, do I still want to do this, or are there other things I want to do? Um, and if so, what? Like I never really had to think about what else I want to do besides medicine because that was kind of the only path for me for so long. Um, but I think regardless of that, that kind of whole concept of um, building up experiences or having one job, always taking one job in mind of like leading to the next job and building up experiences to get to this goal. I think that's kind of a common mindset that a lot of people have coming out of college. I think as we speak, I think um, like I've been talking a lot with my friends about kind of how everyone in my year is kind of reaching that 25, right? And I think we're all kind of talking about how like by 25 you kind of feel the pressure of like needing to have a solid career at that point, or kind of needing to make something of your life at that point. And I definitely feel that too. Um, and I think right out of college, I got a career as a job as a scribe. Um, again, with hopes of going to med school, but I think kind of I'm happy that I got that job. But I think when I'm constantly focused on getting, well, I was constantly focused on getting that job and like kind of what I would do after in regards to my career. I think I missed out on a lot of. It's been what, 3 years since graduating now. It's been a lot since I've missed a lot in these last 3 years. Um, and now that things aren't necessarily going the way I want, I don't know what to do for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Um, and then those kind of pressures of, again, being 25 and needing your life together, that's kind of setting in. And so I always kind of encourage people to kind of take a break after college and like not worry about work a little bit, so they can enjoy their youth. Um, but I definitely understand that the pressures are there, and you don't no one necessarily wants to be at a point uh, where there is no job security, right? Where they have no experiences or where they don't know what they're doing. So it's kind of hard to find a balance between the two, right? Focusing on job and lifestyle, and then also just kind of having free time. Um, but I think for you too, kind of taking that leap of, I think it's really cool that you kind of found that balance of like, yeah, getting that career job and sticking with it, but also now going back to school and kind of diverting past, right? Having that kind of backup plan of, yeah, do I want to stick with engineering or do I want to do this other thing or kind of merge the two? It kind of opens up a lot of pathways even now, um, which is something that I think a lot of people can learn from.
Yeah, and definitely, and I think is because you know how people say, try to do the things you enjoy, right? Do with something that makes you happy. But I realize what helped me, in general, in terms of building experience, is that find something you enjoy with what you're doing. Doesn't necessarily mean you like overall what you're doing, right? I'll bring up dishwashing again, right? What I mean, dishwashing is is dishwashing, right? At a restaurant, I was a busser, but what I realized I really enjoyed doing was like while there's chaos, all the people were just putting the dishes in the bucket and stuff. I had to hurry and put it in the dishwasher, but like I'm playing Lego, with all these dishes and trying to make sure everything fits and the flow is fine, it's not backed up. And I think I found joy into that, right? I found joy into like, oh, okay, it's a game, let's do this, let's do that. And I think each job, that's what helped me stay sane, right? Finding things I enjoy. And you're talking about your job as a scribe, even that is a good job, but what aspects of it, is there enjoyable? Because there's bound to be something you enjoy. It doesn't have to be the majority, there's bound to be something. And I think that was what will help you guide to the next step. And I think that's what really guided me to my master's degree right now, right? Because I realized I enjoy working with people. I enjoy interacting with people in general, right? I do like teaching if I do know the skills and knowledge. Well, I met you by teaching dance too, right? That's part of it, and I was able to find things I enjoy doing and do it. I think that's important, whether it helps progress your college or not, or your career or not. It's definitely an important experience because so graduate 2014, between 14 and 19, I was so I've been pretty involved with KHSA, right? I'm still involved with KHSA. I was still uh, helping them this year. I actually made a cameo, apparently.
I saw, yeah.
Uh, and then, but before that too, I was racing motorcycles. As cool as it was just fun. It's something I'm passionate about. And then I, I don't know, I tried traveling. I tried going out to different restaurants. Enjoy the scenery as much as I could, and find the little things you enjoy. Because no matter what life is, if you're constantly focused on the negative things, which I do too, I do it a lot, but you'll miss all the fun stuff, even if it's little things. Um, and eventually, yeah, it'll lead to me doing things, right? Because I stuck with this engineering role. I want to get into design and startup. Now, honestly, my goal right now is like I want to be a new innovator, right? I want to build this next phone or even build the next power outlet or watch, like I want to be product designer, where it's a little bit of engineering, but it's a little bit of like creativity, um, But I thought of that all after experiencing all these things, right? Because you won't know until you experience it. Um, so that was definitely a lot in my mind too. I'm still thinking through it, exactly what I want, because am I going to stick with being this, product designer? I don't know. You know, honestly, it's the latest venture in my mind has been thinking about opening some sort of restaurant or cafe, because I'm still very tied to the Khmer culture
Mhm.
as much as I can. I haven't been as involved as I'd like to be, you know, um, but I definitely want it to stay alive for the future generations, right? Not even just our generations. Like when we have kids or have, you know, when the next generations our age now, you know, even for us, we grew up here in Washington. It's not like California. We don't have much Cambodian food outside of our home, you know. I know things are growing, which is great, but so that's another thing I really wanted to do or be a part of. But those are just ideas bouncing on and off because that's just from what I've observed going through life, I guess.
Um, I guess one thing I always ask all my guests is that like, do you have what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone kind of in that in between phase between it doesn't have to be school. I always talk about it in the context of like between college and like a career job, but I think
Mhm.
even for people who like decide not to go to college or um, maybe dropped out of college or anything like that, just kind of in that big transition period between kind of trying to figure out what they want to do with their life.
Mhm.
Like, what is one piece of advice you would give them where you are now?
Yeah, I'd say the one piece of advice I have to go back to find what you enjoy and what you're good at. Um, like I said, it doesn't have to improve your career, but I think finding something what you enjoy and what you're good at in general will help you understand yourself. I think it's not easy to understand yourself, right? We're always constantly trying to know ourselves better, um, but because what don't they say that I say that because I'm constantly telling myself that, and I wish I told myself that when I was younger,
Mhm.
right? That the more you do things you like, and the more you know what you're good at, you'll start to feel confident in who you are, right? You'll start to feel confident of what you're capable of, knowing your limits. So being in between, you don't have a direction, and it is hard. Um, but at least go into the direction where you feel like it's you. You're the most you, even if people say that's weird. Why are you doing that? You know, um, yeah. So I do what you like, do what you're good at, and be yourself. I know it sounds cliche, but um, that's the best way I can summarize it for myself.
Yeah. I it's funny that you mentioned that because one of my a good friend of mine and someone who's been on the channel twice. I asked him the same question, and then he both times he gave that same piece of advice as kind of do what you love. Um, but he changed it a little bit in the saying. First he said do what you love, and then second he said do what you love uh, within your capacity, like be flexible.
Hmm.
Um, and I think you kind of just kind of adding on to that, right? Do what you love, but know what you're good at. Um, I think your teens and your mid 20s I think are a good time. It's rough because you don't really know what you want to do, um, but you've had a decade plus years to figure out what you like and what you're good at, um, and maybe what you would want to build upon, what skills you want to build upon. And I think for him, that was acting, and now he's kind of pursuing an acting career, and that's really cool of him. Um, being able to take the leap of or committing to that kind of non-traditional route, and saying like, yeah, I like this thing. I'm really passionate about it. I want to help other people get passionate about it as well. Um, but and then with him like being flexible, kind of understanding well, no, understanding that acting isn't necessarily the most uh, for lack of a better term, stable career, um, and kind of having other things within that field that he likes as well. Um, and I think I've been kind of thinking about that too, where it's like I've been drawing and like dancing my whole life, thinking, oh well, maybe I could get into maybe really working on my art and thinking, oh maybe I should get into design, or maybe I could see where dancing takes me, like doing like my dances, or I like what the Klein New Year show. I think what they what the KHS did this year in the Klein New Year show, I think it was really cool that they were able to kind of do the more modern dance and like incorporate the music and stuff, and really kind of educate about the quote unquote traditional culture, but also kind of incorporate kind of newer culture, more modern culture, making it a lot more relatable to the generation. Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
I yeah.
and actually, you brought up a point I forgot too. It's being flexible. I think that's really important being an adult, right? Because we took so much effort in their first 20 something years to build a foundation, right? But we need to, because things are going to be thrown at you. You're going to be in an environment that's changing. The New Year show is a good, KHSA in general is a really good example of what flexibility is, right? We have a mix of culture here, right? We have to be flexible and change to adapt while embracing our foundations, embracing who we are, you know, but we're also moving into this new age. And, you know, I really love the club for that. I think that's why I've been involved. I mean, it's been 9 years now since I've been with KHSA. Um, and that flexibility can go a long way. Of course, don't be too flexible or people take advantage of you. I think that's a lot of that's what I'm learning now in a career job. Um, where I'm definitely naive, right? Going to a lot of things, people are usually naive, and I was definitely one of them. You learn to change, you learn to figure out the do's and the don'ts. But at least flexibility for the most part has saved me in certain situations, and that's probably the biggest skill that I would encourage anybody to try to be for any reasons.
Yeah. And same. And I said that's in history too, but I think especially um, for the people kind of in the longer career paths like engineering or medicine or law. Um, I think you spend so much of your time, even post college, post education, like focusing towards those careers. And then, I know a lot of doctors who decided not to be doctors like 20 years into their career.
Mm,
And so like what then? And so I think it's very, very easy to with those longer careers, but I think just in this time in general, that kind of mid 20s or early to mid 20s, like if one thing goes minorly astray, like you feel completely lost, and you feel like you're gonna need to totally readjust. And so I think being able to, uh, I think it's hard to kind of prepare for like throws at you, right? Like I don't think anyone could have anticipated a pandemic happening in the last year, but I think being able to adapt to the situations and kind of um, like what you said about having kind of all these different interests in mind and saying, and like kind of using those as ways to build yourself up, um, either in this career, this main career that you're going towards, or maybe even in another career, or just like keeping it as a hobby, and using it to better yourself in general, keeping you sane, right? Like you talk about, anime and manga, like kind of kept you sane. Like it's totally a thing. I like to watch a lot of like slice of life stuff, and it's not because
yeah.
it's like there's nothing really I learned from it or anything, but it's like it's nice to just kind of sit back and relax and think,
Well, it,
this
it,
way.
it feels real, right? Like I love
Yeah,
slice of life too. Well, especially I love the one that makes you cry.
yeah,
But I think I enjoy that because it gives a sense of humanity, right? We're human, we make mistakes. This is just how things go, you know. Things aren't always going to be perfect. And I guess it's as much even if it's not direct relation, I think it's a lot easier to relate to slice of life stuff, because you'll never know when you find a solution to your ache that you're going through, right? It literally, you could just be walking down the street and you realize, oh, this can help fix my resume, like out of the blue. Like it doesn't have to be anything. So yeah, I think I love observing though. Observing things, slice of life, I think really kind of helped me observe more because there's nothing too exciting in slice of life anyways, but then you focus on the details.
Hmm.
And then let's see, trying to think what else my journey up until now. I've definitely gone through a lot. Um, for those of you that do know me, um, you know that I've been married for 4 years. I guess for you don't know, I've been married for 4 years now too, right? So I think that's another topic I guess I'm bringing up. I definitely didn't really follow. I have a weird path, I guess, in life, right? I don't know if it's traditional or not traditional perspective, but so I got married 4 years ago. So what, 2017? Um, I didn't have my career job yet. So there's also that pressure of you have a family now, you have to you have to be stable. You have to have some sort of stable income. So you don't have a choice, you know. Um, so and that was a lot too, because while dealing with that social pressure of being a family person, being responsible, right? Because you have two people to think about now, not just yourself. You can't just go do anything you want. Um, and then just adapting to the other person and their daily lifestyle, right? And I think that applies to anybody, not even just marriage life, even um, if you go, finally have a roommate for the first time, you have to adjust to them, right? Or even this is your first long-term relationship, you have to adjust to them. So the adjustment period it's really hard when you're dealing with people, at the same time trying to balance your own life being stable. So it was definitely rough, and I'll say that my marriage, it was a work in progress, and I would lie to say it was perfect, right? If anybody says perfect, I question them. And that's what it should be, right? I think we're constantly trying to be better. We're constantly trying to improve. Um, and yeah, things are going pretty well. We're always kind of thinking ahead now because we have to be so responsible. But it sucks. I think that's also why I go back to being a child sometimes, because I have this sense of being such an adult. Like I have to be an adult. Well, especially now, I'm almost 30, right? There's a stigma that you should get your life together. I mean, I guess you can say on the surface, I do have my life together. You know, I have a job, I'm married, I have a house, you know, in that aspect, I do have things together. Mentally, do I have things together? I don't know, um, but I'm keeping it together as much as I can, and I think it's not an easy thing. It's just something you got to keep working on. Um, I'm still working on, but I can say I'm fortunate to be where I am right now, regardless of my path. Um, it may have taken longer, but it makes you appreciate what you have more, right? Especially for those that have been in the in between for so long. Um, it's it's not even just frustrating. I mean, you're lost, right? It it's you're so in between. I was even in between feelings, right? I was in between angry and sad. I was in between, you know, infuriated and just depressed, and just I didn't know how to feel, you know. But eventually, I guess the more I looked at myself, figure out who I am, what do I care about? Like, yeah, what do I care about? You know, um, then I was able to kind of figure out how I feel in general. Um, and I think that's what helped me too, because just a simple question of, hey, how are you doing? Like a genuine, hey, how are you doing? That helps open up a lot of people. Because I notice that too when I'm down, you know, I just want to be left alone. This is my personality, right? I just want to be left alone. But when that one just some person just comes by and notice you, like, hey, how are you doing? You doing okay? That took off like at least 10 pounds of weight, you know. Um, did it fix anything? No, but it's it's being kind, because everybody's dealing with everything. Um, so that's why I guess it's also why I'm really happy to be on the show with you, because it's good to talk about where you are, um, not so much for bragging purposes, um, and and I always worry that I'm bragging or whatever, but I really just want to talk. I just want to. How do I come off? Like, where am I at my stage? Because I don't know my references. I mean, after a while, you figure it out, but you don't know until you openly say it to someone. Comfortable, of course. I mean, don't just go and openly say it to people, but like just having that open conversation helps you figure out where you are. You know, um, and I think that's really important too. It's I'm fortunate to have people around me, that I can talk to, my wife, and now you, other friends too. But it's it's hard being lonely. Um, having ways to open up is a great deal, and it's a great help going forward. Getting out of that in between for sure.
Yeah. I think it kind of reminds me of um, one of the reasons why I started this channel, because you were talking about when that one person says, how are you doing? And like, yeah, it doesn't fix anything, but necessarily, but it relieves a lot of pressure. I think right, and you talked about this too with family gatherings, but like especially right after you graduate, or even now, as hitting like 25 or hitting 30, getting closer to 30, the question when you meet up with people, when you meet up with someone you haven't met up with in a while, the first question is always, what are you doing now? Um, where do you work? What are you doing for school? Um, relationships, kids, whatever. And I think that can be hard no matter what stage of life you're in.
Yeah,
Even if you are settled down. Yeah, even if you are settled down, but I think especially like when you're not and you kind of feel that pressure of,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
I need
yeah.
to
No,
do,
that question hurts.
yeah,
It hurts so much because I would see these people that I went to school with, you know, out of the blue, and they've got these like they ask, "Hey, how are you doing? Where are you at?" Oh, like, "Oh, I'm at this engineering firm already." I'm like, "Oh, shit," Um, it. What do you say to them? You feel it just hurts because it's like you feel so inferior,
mhm,
and I honestly don't know how I got through it. It just I dealt with it long enough, sadly, it. I don't think got I don't think I ever got over it when people ask me that. You know, I mean, I've healed it, but I don't think I can handle that question still. I still don't know how to handle that type of questions. It's what are you supposed to say? What do they expect from you? You know, um, do you understand? It's like, and getting someone to understand is the hardest part for sure.
mm. I think it's really easy to put on a face, uh, and it's hard because you don't want to blame the person. Because at least when someone asks me that, I don't think they really mean anything by it. I think it's pretty normal. Uh, like icebreaker kind of catching up question, I guess, but it does suck. It's like if you are in a good spot, you kind of feel like you're bragging, and if you're not in a good spot, you feel inferior, like you said. And it's kind of hard to kind of continue conversation from there. And you kind of if you put on this face of being like, yeah, I'm in a good spot, I'm okay where I am, I'm doing well, I have plans for the future, and you go back home and you're like, but that's all in your mind. You go back home, you're like, man, where am I? What am I actually doing with life? Where am I going? This
Mhm.
sucks. And you like you said, you want to. I think for some people, yeah, they do want to go out, but at least for me, and like what you said, it's first instinct is to be alone. Um, but at the same time, you don't necessarily get any. You feel comfortable being alone, but you don't necessarily get any comfort from being alone. You don't have
Mhm.
anyone really checking up on you, and so I think it's really important to kind of have these conversations, and which is why I'm really grateful that you're able to come on this channel and that you are willing to be so open. I'm glad to hear that your marriage is going well, and that you're happy where you are now. Um, you're gonna have plans for the future. You want to share some advice for the young kids. So yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and like I said, I'd like to help out because I know what it's like to go to struggle to be in between. You know, I don't want to come off as a know-it-all, and I really, really, really try not to. But I just generally just want to help. You know, because it sucks. It sucked for me, um, and at least I want to help to try to understand. You know, validated, and I think that validation is a double-edged sword. You know, but yeah.
Um,
Let's see. Well, well, I know this is just for you, right? The question's always hard. It's like, what are your plans for next year or whatever? But what's on your mind? What's your stress right now about in the future, the near future?
uh, I it's weird because I feel like I have a lot to worry about, and that I don't have a lot to worry about at the same time. Um, I think on one end, like I said, I didn't get into any of the med schools I applied to, right? And so I'm worried about, well, what do I do from here? Do I want to go back to school for like a postdoc or a master's? Do I want to work? Do I want to do both? Can I handle both? Right? What do I do about my parents' donut shop? Um, do I even want to go back to med school in the first place? Um, but at the same time, what am I actually like actively doing now? I'm aside from helping at the donut shop, I'm sitting at home, I'm watching anime, I'm having these conversations. So I'm not really doing much, um, and I think that's okay. But I think it's okay. I kind of wanted to take a little bit of time off to not have to think about school for a while, before I really start getting back into things and I start thinking about my career again. But then there's that question like, how long do I do nothing? And I think at one there's part of me that feels like I feel very comfortable where I am at now, and I'm not in any real hurry to get back into things. But there's a part of me that feels really bad, um, being where I'm at now. Not doing anything necessarily, and not having the leisure and the privilege to not really have to focus on, or yeah, to not really focus on school right now. Especially when I see people, especially like going on Facebook and like being a part of this like med school group and seeing all these people kind of freaking out about applications right now, or seeing people get into med school or like get new jobs and things like that. It's like I'm not I'm not doing a lot compared to them, and I think that's a lot of pressure on me. Especially because I'm living with my parents, which isn't bad, but like I'm living with my parents still. I'm like I don't necessarily have a secure job, but I don't necessarily feel the drive to do anything else. But then I also feel kind of bad about not having that drive.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of I feel like I'm starting over again in a sense. It's a big whirlpool of emotions that I don't know if I necessarily had before because I was so focused on medicine. Now that you know that that first door, the door to that kind of linear journey has been closed off. Now there's like I'm have to turn around and see like all these other pathways. Um, and instead of picking one, I decided to just sit down, and I don't really know what to do anymore. So it's a weird feeling. It feels very new and very scary, but very I wouldn't say familiar, but very similar to what I was kind of experiencing before, especially towards my latter years of college. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I I would say I envy, but like I kind of wish I did that too. I think I kept pushing. I mean, eventually worked, but that push put so much stress, and like I should have just relaxed a little bit. I mean, granted, there's pressure everywhere in general. Like your social media has been really bad, right? You see all these people because that's what social media is. Everybody posts their happy moments, right?
Hmm.
Everybody brags about it, but it sucks when you're not in a happy place. Um, but I think it is important that you're just able to sit down too, because you need to take a break. I didn't take a break, and I still need to take a break. I haven't taken a break yet. Um, to be honest, I mean, honestly, the only break I really did was right out of college. I just worked, right? Just worked. That's it. Go home. Um, but then I did have something, but I think that was my only break. But my mind was constantly running. It's like career job, career job, career job. Do better, push, push. And I wish I had the opportunity. I just wish I decided to just sit still a little bit. You know, maybe I did. Maybe it just felt too short. Um, but it's okay. Yeah. I don't know. In between, I just hope everybody can figure something out. For the best for everybody. It's not a great feeling. Um, I want to say I want to think I'm a success story. Um, I don't know. I don't know how that sounds to people, but I feel like I was able to accomplish that in between. I feel proud of myself. Um, and feel comfortable to say I'm proud of myself took a lot too, right? Because you're in this day and age, especially with social media, we're always comparing yourself to people, right? It's like, oh, you're better than this person. And it's like, but just look at where you start and look where you are. Doesn't have to do with comparing to anybody. What did you have pre-college? What did you have right when you graduate college? And then for those that are stuck in between, 5 years later, where are you at now? Not in a pushing way, but it's like you've accomplished something in that 5 years. You know, I'm sure you did, unless you literally potatoed the whole 5 years. That's a different story. But for those that are still trying, whether they're just relaxing like you and just trying to make sure your mind's clear, trying to figure out where to go, or people pushing, it's you've accomplished something, you know, um, from one year to the other. Even though like 2020 with the pandemic seemed like nothing, I'm sure there's something you've accomplished. Even if you think it's nothing worth bragging, nothing to say to write off about, I'm sure you accomplished something. You've you've learned to cope with being at home, being limited in resources, right? I think you gain that experience. Everybody's gained that experience, Um, you just have to look at the right place, or maybe have someone point that out to you. Um, so you're always you're always going to be better. People have made progress, that's for sure. So, and if you feel down that you've done nothing, at all, don't, because honestly, the only way to do nothing is, like I said, maybe you're in a sleep study by NASA and you have to stay in bed for 80 days, you know. But even that, you did something, right? You helped a NASA study. That is something. You've accomplished something. So like, it's very rare to say that I accomplished nothing. It maybe not be proud of it, but you accomplished something, you know. Um, Even basic stuff like, hey, I've drank 8 cups of water a day. You know, I suck at that. But if you can even just say you've accomplished that, not everybody is able to do that. So trying to keep a positive mindset is is a really, really great challenge. It's not easy. I, I sounds like it's easy, but it's not. But giving yourself pat on the back for the little things you do, like, hey, I got out of bed 5 minutes after the alarm today, instead of 30 minutes snooze. That's an accomplishment. Sure, it's insignificant, but shoot, you did something, you tried, you know. So, and even if for you, you're helping your parents out at the donut shop. Um, I'm sure there's little things that you've come across with. You've seen different experience customers. You probably had to handle the whole COVID adjustment too, right, with your parent shop.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's an experience that only you got to experience, specifically at your shop, how things work. Um, so there's that to be proud of. You've done things. Um, we've all done things, and we're only going to learn more from here.
Thank you for one. Um, Number two, uh, I think it is really important to acknowledge. For whenever I think of these videos or these conversations, I talk a lot about how like this area of life is hard and it's rough, and it is. And when I try to think of, I don't want to make it seem like it's all bad, uh, being in this kind of in between stage. But then I can never really think of a sustainable topic as to why this stage could be a good thing. Um, but I think what you said about kind of taking your little victories every day, um, like you said with social media and like asking the whole, what are you doing now? Trying to talk to your family or whatever. People only really think about kind of the big accomplishments. But I think, like you said, what you said is really important. I think that I'll remember from now on is kind of the minor the things that happen every day. I think even if you spend all day, even if you spend a day potatoing, um, maybe you like watched an anime and you thought something new, or like maybe you decided not to take a nap today instead of taking one, or um, maybe you went outside for the first time in a couple of days. Um, I don't want to say like you should like. Uh, it's very hesitant. I always get a little hesitant saying stuff like that because it makes me, to me, when I hear it, it uh, almost sounds like you're telling me to like over congratulate myself in a way. But at the same time, I think being able to being able to find things every day to congratulate yourself with is a lot better than beating yourself up for like one big thing all the time and letting that hold you back. Um, it's all about moving forward, and so I guess whatever helps you move forward helps. Something you should incorporate.
Yeah, and I guess this is an analogy that popped in my head while we're talking, but like everybody has a wall to get over, right? Some people are fortunate they're given a ladder, you know. Um, some people was given a big rock, right? Um, but it doesn't mean you don't use a rock. Why not, right? You have that rock, put it in there. There's a bigger step, you know. Then these little victories, I see it as other small rocks that you can kind of help build up, make the pile a little bit bigger. Sure, it's going to take longer, it's going to take more effort, and you wish you had a ladder, but it doesn't mean that there's there's something that can't be used, right? You got to be resourceful. Um, so I think these little rocks, these little trinkets, or anything that can help you get over that wall, there's something there. Like I said, it might take you longer, but I think these little victories is what will help you, and you as an overall you, help people in general. It's yeah. I agree though. I wouldn't want people to over congratulate themselves. It's like, hey, drink water. It's like, no. I mean, if you're feeling down and you feel like there's nowhere, no accomplishment whatsoever, there's still going to be some bright spots to look up to. So
I think it's a little hard being on a time crunch, and I don't know if it's necessarily uh, uh, like a American stigma or if it's just like an Asian American thing. But same thing we talked about this earlier, like kind of approaching 30, approaching 25. We always kind of feel like we're there's no hurry to do anything. But at the same time, we feel like we're should be doing something, or we should be at a certain stage of life by a certain age. Um, and so, kind of what you said, like, yeah, maybe you can build up all these victories, and maybe it'll take a long time. But I think it's very easy to acknowledge that, but I think it's very hard to accept that because we're always kind of looking for the ladder. Um,
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, at least acknowledgement is a start, right?
mhm,
It's not the solution, but it's a start.
mhm.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure if I have anything else to share or talk about. If you have any other thing that you want to bring up, I mean, I'm definitely very open to share. I just can't think of anything right now. Um,
Um, I don't have anything off the top of my head. I think uh, I've asked everything that I wanted to ask, or that I usually ask. Um, yeah.
right.
Uh, yeah. So unless you have anything, it doesn't have to be about life, but if there's
Yeah,
anything
no,
else
for
you
sure.
want to
Yeah,
share.
I'm just thinking in general, right? Because I haven't really gotten a chance to talk about life to people much.
Hmm.
Um, especially now being like an adult. Actually, I shouldn't really quote. I am actually an adult. uh, being an adult, that's like I'm not as connected with people that I knew anymore.
Hmm.
I had a pretty big circle. Well, I had a lot of circles of friends, right? The KHSA group. Well, there's two or three generations of KHSA that I'm a part of. There's my college friends. There's my high school friends. There's my family, my wife. So there's a lot to connect, and it's definitely nice to connect. I actually started connecting a little bit with this brand new generation of KHSA a little bit. Even though I only met them a little bit, um, it's been nice. I was talking to just chatting with one of them. It's like, dang, I'm 10 years older than this girl, and it's like, wow, it's 10 years was a lot. It's like, what happened 10 years ago? What was I like 19 years? But I definitely want to try to help gaps or okay, bridge, build a bridge for certain gaps, because I think the stigma that it's too stuck on age, right? And I think at least for the Asian culture, I want to say, I apologize if this sounds bad for the viewers, but I think the girls or women have a harder pressure in terms of time crunch, right? At least on a traditional sense, right? Um, they have a lot more pressure. I see that pressure on my wife a lot. She's younger than me, so I also have to keep in mind that she's at a different stage, but at the same time, she's at an accelerate stage just because of being, a woman, being married. Um, that stigma itself is really hard. So it, I it's hard to think because everybody's different. Me and my wife are pretty different in general as personality wise. So even my piece of advice for those who are listening to us, our advices aren't going to work for you always. Um, this is just from my experience and who I am, how it worked. Um, but at the same time, as frustrating as it is, it's also fun learning how to solve these problems, learning how to help one another, and I think whatever platform you can find is great. So Pat, I know he's been doing that jaw chat
Mm.
thing on his what you call it clubhouse.
Yeah.
You know, like I'd be down to talk, but I don't have Apple, so that's not an Android. So, um, but honestly, I it's nice. I actually get really excited to be on this thing because I wanted to connect with people back again. And I'm glad people like you and so Pat, and I think even Sophia is doing stuff like that. Yeah, social media kind of connects us, in a way of like, oh, we've seen this person went to Disneyland, but having conversation was good. I think college was great, right? Because we were close to each other, we talk, we stress, we're able to open up. In between is weird because you don't always have those people, you know. And then adulthood, you'll definitely don't really have those people unless you really make an effort. Because what I've learned, people aren't going to make an effort for you. They're not. People aren't really going to try to make an effort. Um, and if that's the case, if you think you don't need them, then cut them out. You know, as harsh as it is, I had to learn a lot of harsh things, right? Because I always really wanted to be friends. I've always tried to make an effort, but then it's like they're not making an effort to me. It needs to be a two-way thing, because at some point you do have to be selfish in terms of, is this going to benefit me? Um, it doesn't have to be a big benefit, but yeah, in general, is it really going to benefit me? Is it making things worse on my end? You know, um, so I had to learn to adjust to that. Being an adult and all. But yeah, I'm more than help. I mean, to anybody out there just watching and listening in general, it's like if even if you don't know me, feel free to reach out and contact. I would love to just chat in general. I like chatting with people as I blabber off here, but not for the sake of me giving advice, but I think giving my perspective, you know. And I think I've tried talking to a lot of people because uh, I wanted to learn people's perspective differently. It's funny though, now that I think about it, even way back in high school, like I would always try to talk to girls so that I know how girls think, so that if I have a girlfriend, I would know how to handle them. Yeah, it kind of worked, but I mean, in general, it definitely helped me handle different people differently, right? You start to see people are so different, you know, um, and it helped me adapt to people easier. Whether I like them or not, that's a whole different story. But just talking to people, understanding people, knowing more people, um, getting their perspective is always an interesting thing, especially if they come from a different, I guess, background from you.
Mm. Yeah. And this is we're kind of talking about what you were talking about earlier. This is something that I uh, always talk about with a lot of my friends. Is kind of it's weird to think about how many changes happen in your everyday life and your habits as you grow older without you realizing that they happen. Um, and for example, you used the example of like meeting up with people, or like with my high school friends, for example. There are people who I used to meet up with almost every day, um, and now we meet up maybe like once every few months, if that. And I think COVID has to do with that, has something to do with that, but also I think just like being adults and like them working in their schedules and their personalities, um, but also just like being very okay with that. Uh, Realizing that we're not necessarily any less close than we were before. It's just we're not meeting up as often. Um, but also like not even realizing that it's been that long since we talked. Um, and it happened the other day talking with like some of the guys from KHSA from our year, and I'm like, wow, it's been a year since I talked to these people. We're like talking to the KHSA members now, and they're like, I didn't know them too off. Some of the officers now, like I didn't really know them too well. But them saying like, wow, I've heard so much about you, and I'm like, wow, I didn't think I made that much of an impact that you would have heard about me.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Especially now that I'm graduated, it makes me feel a little old, but I'm glad that I'm still relevant, I guess.
yeah.
Um, but
No,
yeah,
that,
yeah.
that's funny because I've come to the point now where like I would go in there and like no one knows me.
Mm.
And it's so awkward because I'm like, I swear I'm not a pedophile, okay? Go in and then like I'm always trying to find that one person that knows me, right?
Mhm.
So at least it breaks the ice like, oh, this person is, he's fine. I'm fortunate, I guess people think I'm younger than I am. But no, I definitely feel that it's interesting um meeting this newer group, right? And it's like, oh, like I guess you don't know me. And it's a weird transition, right? Because you moved on, they've moved on, or they're into this new thing, and everybody has moved on. So it's fun. It's fun interacting with people again because that's the one thing you got to remember. You won't get as much opportunity as you can when you're older.
Mhm.
I don't want to sound depressing. I don't want to make like adulthood horrible. I mean, it is stressful. Uh, but there's definitely some upsides to it. It's just things are going to be different. Um, so just got to embrace that change. And oh my God, sorry. Like as an adult though, at least for me, it's like financially, you, at least I started to be super stingy because you kind of have to, because like it's like, oh, I really like that jacket. It's like $60, right? And I'm like, but that's like a year membership for Costco. you know like you start having all these thoughts and it's like, dang, am I getting stingier than my parents you know um so at least those are the funny humor sides of adulthood for sure.
Yeah. Uh, I'm at that point too. It's like it's not bad per se. It's just different. And
Yeah.
I like uh and we always joke about uh having like back pain or like knee pain, and it's like, man,
Oh gosh.
I'm like, man, I'm 24. I turned 25 in a month. Should I already be having the body of a 60-year-old? Um, but I get it. um,
Hmm.
and so I think it's nice that we're kind of able to joke about, uh, have fun, I guess,
Hmm.
with the quote unquote struggles of being an adult. Um,
No, for sure. And actually I just played soccer after like, oh god, 3 years this Sunday.
mhm.
Oh, my body, like well, the other thing, like, okay, people laugh when I say I play goalkeeper. It's like, oh, so you don't even run? It's like, yes, but like I dive for the balls and stuff. So like I'm literally throwing my whole body, right? And after 3 years of not doing things and being not active in general, like when I say 3 years of no soccer, that's actually 3 years of no active like things. Okay, I've gone to the gym like maybe twice a year, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it was fun to get back to doing something like that where it's not you can just be free. You don't have to think about adulthood again.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you do have to think about it in terms of like, are my bones going to heal much faster? Because you're not. Um, but yeah, I think I finally started. Honestly, I think it's really this year, 2021, that I started to get back to myself, right? Because I was so focused on being responsible, being a head of household, being an adult, having a job, being, having a house. That's all I thought about. And I lost who I was, as a person. Like I'm just this robot that just does all these boring adult work, you know. I think now I can finally say I have some time to do the things I enjoy and should have done it sooner, but at least it's not too late now.
Mhm.
But anyways, well, I would like to talk more, but I guess time wise, I do have some time. I need to do certain things at home
Yeah,
too. So
no problem. Totally understandable. I guess with that, I'll close this out. Thank you, Ravit, again for being on the channel and for talking. It's a nice pleasure. I think it's been one of the first times we've been able to like really have a more in-depth conversation about life in general, and so it's been really nice to kind of. It's nice having like talking about anime and dance, whatever, but it's also really nice seeing that other side of you, and so especially after so long. So thank you so much for being on the channel and for uh, giving your advice. Hopefully, it won't be years before we talk again.
that's true. Yeah. No, and yeah. No, honestly, thank you, Michael, for having me. Given this opportunity, I think it made me a little bit confident in myself too. Just talking about it. And again, like I agree, it's good to know you instead of just anime and dancing because I think yeah we didn't really get to know each other well enough, and having these opportunities has been great. So yeah, because when did we last talk? Was it my wedding?
I think so. Yeah.
So I haven't talked to you in 4 years, or at least like talk. yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. But well, yeah, no, thank you again. This has been fun.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I got to do this.
Yeah.
And thank you everybody that's listening and watching for listening to me. Um, I personally don't like hearing my own voice, so I don't know if I'll watch this myself. But thank you for those that listened through this and stuck with it.
Yeah. Thank you from me to everyone who's kind of who's watching and listening. I know these videos are long and kind of are daunting to watch it the whole way. And I don't like really listen to my voice either, but um, I really do hope that these videos help and that they kind of spark conversations, if not with me, or it be between you guys and your friends or family or whoever else. Um, yeah. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys next time. Deuces.